When you are alone, when you're walking on a lovely evening, or watching the sunset, or listening to the murmur of the water, or looking at the mountains, at the birds, or in a solitary place where there is peace and great beauty, do not say to yourself, I am going to spend 10 minutes or 5 minutes in a state of meditation. Then you are just concerned with yourself, with your own problems and anxieties. Rather let all that go, just watch, listen, and be aware of everything about you, without any choice, without any wish or desire. For in that state of attention, the me, the ego, the person, the self, whatever you like to call it, is absent. And in the absence of that self, there is vast, expansive space, a space in which there is no conflict, no measure. What you just heard are the words of well-known philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti. I came across this quote a few weeks ago when I was going down a rabbit hole researching for another video I was making about finding deeper meaning. I don't necessarily wholly agree to this statement, to be honest. Sure, some parts make sense, such as being aware and being present in the moment when you're in the presence of something as wonderful and peaceful as nature. But to not meditate seems a little harsh. Also, I'm sure the word meditate here is being used loosely, not necessarily the traditional form of meditation that we know about. But I think what he means is more of the inner reflection and looking inwards. Many of us live the hustle life these days. It's impossible to be in a place with rich, positive energy and not want to feel an extra sense of peace, which may otherwise not be possible on a day-to-day basis. I've mentioned previously how I personally would recommend taking simply 1% of time in a day, that's just 15 minutes by the way, to meditate, preferably in the middle of the day to quickly perform a reset of sorts, so your mind can refocus on the things that matter. Some of us can't even afford that much time, so when we do go on holidays or simply go for a hike on the weekend, to not take that moment in time to perform a simple act of meditation and look inwards seems a little counterintuitive. Oftentimes when I meditate, regardless if I do it at home or out in nature, it's not just to release stress and gain clarity, but it's also to then be able to do the very thing Mr. Jiddu is asking us to do, being present. It's the whole I versus me and pride versus ego debate all over again. To each his own, but to me, I would take a moment for myself first, before then allowing myself to immerse in the environment around me. A year or so ago, when I was living in the hustle-bustle life of Mumbai, my friends and I decided to go for ice cream to beat the summer's heat. Now imagine a narrow road with traffic flowing in either direction. On one side, there are a slew of shops, including the ice cream parlor we were in, and on the opposite side was a temple. It was the only thing in my line of sight that appeared quiet and peaceful. A thought immediately came to mind and I decided I'll visit this temple before I leave Mumbai. Unfortunately, that never transpired. Life got in the way and I never got to go to a temple to just simply be. I think it's important to mention at this point that I'm not a religious person. So me going to a temple just for the sake of it and not because I'm being dragged to it because of some occasion is a big deal. My mom can vouch for that. From a young age, I'd memorized an arti and recited it every single evening of my life. But as I got older, I realized I neither knew the meaning of the words I spoke nor knew the proper pronunciations of those words. I decided to say a silent prayer of my own rather than butcher those sacred words. I was in a deep philosophical conversation with a friend of mine the other day and the topic of religion came up. And it reminded me of the ice cream day. And given my whole self-care, self-improvement phase that I've embarked on since a few months ago, I've been thinking, maybe it's time to go to a place of worship. Because even though I'm not a very religious person, all those times that I've been to a temple, I've always felt a little calmer afterwards. Of course, back then I didn't have or understand anxiety, stress, etc. But now I realize it could actually be a good place for some reflection and meditation. And being me, who loves going down these rabbit holes, I wanted to find out exactly why I, among others, feel at peace after a visit to a place of worship, even for us non-religious folks. From what I've gathered, there are a few non-religious, scientific and spiritual reasons for this. These spaces can have a variety of designs, carvings and paintings, but a common theme across places of worship is high ceilings. It's a fascinating concept called the cathedral effect, where high ceilings promote abstract thinking and room for creativity in our minds. It essentially reflects the relationship between the perceived height of a ceiling and cognition. And of course, in a place of worship, one of the goals is to leave the place with a sense of accomplishment and better understanding of whatever problems we may have. This next reason may not necessarily apply to places of worship of all faiths, but at least in Hindu temples, the 5 senses of our body gets activated. For those who saw my video a few weeks back on tackling anxiety, you'll know that one of the solutions is to use the 5 senses technique, which helps to ground oneself and focus on the present rather than on their anxieties. Working on a similar concept, the activation of our 5 senses in a temple helps us to achieve a similar effect, where we are able to then perceive life around us better, help us be present, and achieve a higher plane of understanding. Chanting mantras is a great way to focus and concentrate better while still having an open mind. In some rare cases, it's even possible to reach a meditative state so powerful you could have an out-of-body experience. Now, you don't have to necessarily say the same words someone else does or has taught you. An excellent alternative to chanting mantras that you may not even know the meaning to is to instead vocalize your affirmations in whichever words and language you please. The subconscious mind treats the words we feed it as truth, shaping our internal reality and in turn external world. When focused on an affirmation, we create and nourish a thought form which gets energized and stronger with repetition and belief. This results in an increased state of happiness and positivity. In essence, with a combination of these factors, all the aura created within the walls of a place of worship are kept within them, reverberating around and inside of us, and allowing for a pure, positively charged energy to flow around and within us, hence making us feel better. There's a reason why you should sit down in places like this. It's said that you are then able to better absorb the energies flowing in the area throughout your body. You should do the same in nature. Allow the earth's energies to flow within and through you. I'm not going to lie, it's stuff like this that makes religion interesting to me, not the mainstream idea of what religion has become in this day and age. Sure, if you only got into it because this was what you were taught as a kid, that's okay. If it makes you feel better because you have a routine, I'm happy for you. But when you're saying a few words or performing a ritual and have no idea of the significance of it, maybe one should re-evaluate and pay attention to the why. It might just make that experience so much more meaningful. It did for me. From one point in my life where I dreaded going to a temple thinking I'm gaining nothing out of this and being bored, I now look forward to my next visit because I know by tapping into the tranquility of temples, I will naturally gain a more positive outlook out of it, in a place free of judgment. So the next time you consider going to a place of worship or any place that brings you some form of peace and comfort, go with the intention that you are going to gain something out of that. Tap into the part of your mind where you do things mindfully. If you're going for a hike, go not just with the intention that you're going to get some form of cardio workout done, but also because you will get to smell the trees and hear the flowing of a river and truly thrive from the natural energy that will be present in that area. So, Mr. Jiddu, I'm sorry, but if I'm gonna be in a place that's gonna give me some peace, then I'm gonna be a tad bit selfish first. And then the universe gets my attention. I'll see you in the next video.